Hello again, and welcome to day 6 of our weekly Sonic and Iconic Virtual Art Gallery. Every day for a week. This week of Black Friday, we are presenting you with a different set of photos. Over 1,100 total. Every photo is for sale. We encourage you to buy some holiday gifts from the comfort of your own home. A nice, safe way to give unique photos. My name's Kleon, along with
I'm Anastasia Pantsios.
And we've got a lot of stuff tonight in rock. It is our biggest set of photos. All kinds of rock musicians, everyone from Ace Frehley to Al Di Meola, Aerosmith.
Who is not a rock performer.
Well, he doesn't fit anywhere else.
Yeah.
We've got some Cheap Trick, Clash, Def Leppard, The Darkness, Eddie Money, some Fleetwood Mac, Grateful Dead, Guns N' Roses, Heart, Jethro Tull, tons and tons of bands. Pretty much every part of the rock subgenres, from progressive rock to some progressive hard rock. All kinds of stuff. Great Queen, Rush, Steely Dan, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Todd Rundgren, everybody in between. So we're going to get our faces off the screen here.
Well,
put on
before
some...
we go, though, I
I'm
just want
sorry,
to get
I'm
in a plug for the 48-hour Virtual Music Fest, which is being hosted on Facebook. You look for it under that name, which is 48 hours, started last night at midnight and goes to Monday at midnight Sunday, where you can see rock band singers, songwriters, and all kinds of Cleveland musicians participating. Each one has a 1-hour slot, and they're just going to go around the clock. So if you want to check out some new music, that's one place to look for it. It's been growing since it was started by a musician from Cleveland named Megan Stepka. And she started it for the pandemic, and the idea's just really snowballed. So she's keeping it going.
Very nice. And before we get into our photo slideshow, we're going to do an interview that you did with Cindy Barber at the Beachland Ballroom. I recorded it last week, and just give it a little intro to the interview.
Yeah, well, this is another way we're trying to support local live music, why we're plugging the 48-hour Virtual Music Fest, and why we're focusing on the Save Our Stages effort, which is being mounted by small local music venues, which are the seating ground for the big bands that we shoot in arenas. And they're struggling now under the pandemic and, trying to figure out a model to keep things going and what they need. And Cindy will tell us a little bit more about what the clubs are facing and the measures that they're taking in order to get through this and to survive.
Let's get into the interview with Cindy Barber at the Beachland Ballroom, also from Cleveland Rocks, past, present, and future. And then once we are done with that interview, we will go right into the photo gallery and the slideshows for today. Lots of great rock artists coming up. So let's get into the interview, and we'll see you on the other side.
Go right ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm here with Cindy Barber at the Beachland Ballroom. Cindy is one of the co-owners of the club, which has been Cleveland's flagship independent music club since the year 2000, celebrating its 20th anniversary, or celebrated it just before the pandemic started, under the wire. So we're talking to Cindy about what's going on with the club and how it's been impacted by the pandemic and what they're doing in the meantime. Tell us, Cindy.
Well, it's been 8 months since we suddenly got shut down on March 15th in the middle of our anniversary month. So we took that time to do some rehab and renovate. You can see that, we refinished the floors in here, and we've now got it set up.
New soundboard?
We put a new soundboard in. We built no more soundboard in the middle of the room. We painted, so we're trying to pivot for COVID capacity. So instead of the 500 standing room in the ballroom, it's now set up for 64 people spaced out and seated. And we're trying to figure out ways to make that work. We're upgrading the kitchen. Trying to pivot to more food service, and hoping that we can survive, because it's getting really scary. And now with what's happening this week, restaurants and venues may get shut down again, very quickly.
So what do you think that venues like yours and the other small music venues in this area, what's needed to help them survive, and what can people do to support them?
Well, one thing that we're pushing right now is to finally get more stimulus package through Congress. Save Our Stages, which was written by Amy Klobuchar and Republican John Cornyn in Texas, which would give the performing arts spaces, not just music venues, but movie theaters and Broadway and the performing arts, 20 billion of support capability. I mean, I really think that's the only way that music venues are going to come out on the other side of this, is if there's some kind of support, especially if the states now close up again.
Tell us a little bit about NEVA, which was behind this effort, and the lobbying that they're doing.
Yeah, the National Independent Venue Association grew out of this crisis. There were a few folks that had created Independent Venue Week in 2018, and they got a few venues across the country, and Beachland was one of the first 20 to commit to that nationally. And then when the shutdown happened in March, they started having Zoom calls with the people, the venues that they knew, to just sort of talk through strategy, and that immediately attracted venues to come online, and before they knew it, they had 400 venues, and it kept growing, and so they decided to start a formal association, a 501c6, and hired and got some donations, and were able to hire a lobbying firm in Washington, Aiken Gump, and basically mounted the biggest campaign that has been done in years, with 2 million emails going to Congress, which has gotten a lot of attention. And half of the senators have signed on for support, and probably almost half of the House representatives have signed on to support this.
Are there
bill.
things people can still do to contribute?
Yes, and there is also, and NEVA has also started an emergency relief fund. So Beachland applied, I know Happy Dog and Grab Shop all applied. They raised money with a national virtual fundraiser called SOS, Save Our Stages, and folks like the Foo Fighters and Miley Cyrus and everybody donated their time. So those grants are potentially going to help a lot of people, and people can go online and donate to that emergency relief fund at saveourstages.com. They can also, write their congressperson and say how much people need help. I mean, we in Ohio, Kent Smith wrote some legislation on behalf of Save Ohio venues. So there's 100 NEVA members in the state of Ohio, and we're asking for $20 million to potentially get set aside from the original CARES funding that might be able to help just the performing arts folks that aren't under the nonprofit umbrella to help us survive, because it doesn't look like anybody's going to be open before next summer, really, in any kind of capacity.
Now, a lot of people are going to say, the arts, music clubs, that's not serious. We have to help people. Can you share with us some of what the employment and economic impact of these venues is? Because I think people don't realize, the far-reaching economic impact that the arts and music have in this area and a lot of other areas.
Yeah, I don't have those exact statistics off the top of my head. Sean Watterson from the Happy Dog would know that number immediately. But
he's good at that.
But I know that I think that the arts in Ohio is, not very far down the list on number of people that are employed, and it's been the hardest hit genre of employment. across the country. Music and theater and arts and all of the culture that gets exported from the United States, is basically at a standstill right now. I mean, culture makes a lot of money for people.
And it employs a lot of people. I think people don't realize how many people were making their living off these freelance gigs, whether as a musician or a photographer or an actor. That this is how people paid their mortgage and put bread on the table. And how many people you employ here, both as regular staff and musicians.
Right, and musicians. I mean, we're, on a normal, I just did some of those numbers, on a normal month, we have somewhere between 500 and 700 band people going through here that we're paying to play. So that's a lot of people that are not getting that funding anymore. Yeah. I mean, we had, and just from our internal staff, I mean, we were employing, like 25 people, and we're down to like 10. So.
Yeah, and certainly, venues, and this is really a factor with the Beachland, but as well as some other clubs, is that they are anchors for neighborhoods and would spill off to other businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about your impact on the Waterloo neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, we're bringing 80,000 visitors to this building every year, which is, more than some of the smaller nonprofits in their own little area. But, people are going to restaurants before they come to a show, and they're going to the local bar, and they might stop and shop at a local record store as they're coming here. So we're sort of anchoring and generating a lot of income for the neighborhood, and it would be horrible if we had to shut down.
I think that we all agree with that. So thank you very much for filling us in, and we hope that all of you out there who are music fans will give some serious thought to what you can do to support our live music venues, because I know we'd all feel much poorer if they were to close.
Now, all of our friends in northeastern Ohio, if they wanted to do something specifically to help the Beachland or the Grog Shop, is there anything they can do locally to help this batch of clubs in our area?
Yeah, I mean, the nonprofit Cleveland Rocks, past, present, and future, has formally adopted a program to save Cleveland venues. So we've got a PayPal where people can donate, and we have a committee to help, grant funding for venues that are in need. So they can go to clevelandrocksppf.org and donate.
Thank you so much, Anastasia, for that great interview with Cindy Barber from the Beachland Ballroom. We encourage everyone to do everything you can to help support local venues, because it's just so important for so many reasons. So let's get into this big smorgasbord of rock photos. We're going to start off with Wolf Hoffman from Accept. I know that Anastasia's metal photos were, Accept photos were in the metal category. This should have been too, but it ended up in rock. And I love this photo. I think he's one of the most underrated guitarists in metal.
Yeah.
A great composer, a great guitarist. I love Wolf Hoffman, and I really love that photo. Moving on to Ace Frehley. That was from House of Blues, and that was probably about 10 years ago. Really great shot with his solo band. We move on to Al Di Meola, one
Who
of my
is
all-time.
not rock.
Where else does he fit?
Yeah, we just didn't have a category for him, so we just put him in here.
He's one of my all-time favorite guitarists. I love a lot of his world music.
Yeah,
And
he's
that's
good.
2017 at the Kent Stage. We go back to 2012 for one of my most recognized and iconic photos, Steven Tyler. That's from The Cue. Probably one of my top 3 favorite photos. There's a Joe Perry shot from that same show. Continuing on with Aerosmith photos. Steven Tyler came over and mugged right
Nice.
in my face. I love when performers do that.
Yeah.
Another great shot of Steve and Joe. That was a really dynamic show, that show at the
They
Q.
are really dynamic. I was really surprised. I didn't think they'd last this long.
That was the last time they played the Q. They played a few years later at the Canton Football Hall of Fame, or the football stadium there, and
Was it
photographers
for
told me it was
Football Hall of
horrible.
Fame week?
It might have been. Photographers that went down there told me it was
Oh,
horrific.
that's too
They got to
bad.
shoot one song from 20 miles away.
Oh,
So I'm glad I did that 2012 in the Q. Then we go back to your real iconic Aerosmith photos. Do you remember
Yeah.
what era of the band this was?
This was probably mid '80s, I'm guessing. And I think it was. I don't know if that was Blossom or the Coliseum. I think that was the Coliseum.
Nice.
I think that was Blossom. I think that was also Blossom. I mean, they played Blossom and the Coliseum
Great
a
shot,
lot.
Steve and Joe there. That's a nice shot.
Yeah.
The Toxic Twins.
Yeah, I love that one. That was Blossom.
Trying to be Angus Young there, I think.
Yeah,
With his
yeah.
devil
It's
horns.
funny.
What's he pulling up his shirt?
It was the Coliseum.
I
Yeah,
think he was lactating.
yeah, probably.
Great
like
shot of Joe
that.
Perry. That's a great guitar.
Yeah.
Nice guitar. Look at that shot.
That was much more recent.
That's a great shot too. Wow.
Yeah.
Really great Aerosmith
And that
shots
was
you got
very
here.
recent. That was Blossom, probably 2005, 6, 7,
Wow.
something like that.
Okay. Very cool. We move on to Bad Company. That was from Blossom, 2014. Always been a big Bad Company Paul Rogers fan. Really enjoyed that show.
The
Moving on.
Black Crows, they were opening up to, I can't remember who, at Blossom,
Okay.
that they were opening up to somebody.
Saw them early on at the music hall too.
Yeah,
Blues Traveler. That's from the Kent stage. That's from 2017.
very dramatic.
Yeah, I love John Popper. Great Howard Stern appearances. Bob Seger, 2014. That's from the Q. Another performer I really loved growing up. Really glad to shoot him. Bon Jovi with the Browns uniform. That's also from the Q 2013. Another good shot of Bon Jovi that I really like. We go back to some of your early
That's
Bon Jovi stuff.
That was probably early 80s.
Their very first performance in Cleveland, they opened for the Scorpions. That wouldn't have been that show, would it? I was at that show.
I don't think so.
That was the
I'm
very
not
first time I
sure,
ever
but
heard them.
I'd have to look it up. That was later in the 80s. That was probably 86, 87.
That's from 2013, that show I had before. I had one other show of theirs, but the photos weren't that good. Buck Cherry, that goes back to 2011. That might have been at Classic Park in Eastlake during one of those festivals. I don't remember where that was, but they were a band that really toured hard for a long time.
Yes.
And they were a good live band. They had some pretty good hits, too. Cheap Trick, that was from a thing at Public Hall in 2016. I think it was a Rock Hall event. 2016, actually that's 2018, Blossom. Rick Nielsen, a couple of cool shots there. Always a fun band. Chris Cornell, that was from a solo acoustic performance. I think that was at the Lorraine Palace or the Lakewood Theater. I forget, one of those two places. But he did a really nice just solo acoustic performance. Chris Isaac, that's from House of Blues. And that's from 2012. And then finally, we get to hopefully a bunch of your photos after 12
Chrissy
of mine.
Hind, most of them are actually tomorrow in our Cleveland Connected gallery, but this one's sort of straight into rock. I've got a lot of photos of her taken at the Agora, at Blossom. I don't know if she played the Q, but she played here a number of times, even though she professed not to like Cleveland back in the day.
How many times did you shoot them?
4 or 5.
Moving on to the Clash, very, very cool shots here.
That was
Those
the
are nice.
Agora. That's
1979.
one of my favorite shots of the band, when their road crew member came on stage and was carrying one of the band members on his back. And you can see the audience. I always love shots that show the band and the audience
Yeah,
together.
that's a really nice
So
shot.
that was at Kent State University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Another great shot there of the two of them.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
from,
those were at Kent State University.
okay, and then we move on to Counting
Love that
Crows.
hair.
A band that I knew 3 or 4 songs just from being on the radio for 20 years. And then I went and saw them in Youngstown and photographed them. This show, 2015. And I became a huge fan. They're probably one of my top 10 favorite bands now. They're just an amazing live band.
That hairstyle
An
is not one
amazing
of my
live band.
top 10 favorite hairstyles.
Well, he's a great singer, though. Really, really great singer.
Yeah.
I really love them. I've photographed and seen them probably 5 or 6 times since. Mr. Crosby? Or is that Wilford Brimley? I don't know.
Oh, that is David
Okay, that's what I
Crosby.
thought. That's from
Yeah,
Nautica.
yeah.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash show from maybe 2013 or 2012.
Yeah,
And there's David Crosby.
that is.
Cool. It was cool to see them just because I've
That's
been
Graham
a fan.
Nash.
Or Graham Nash. I'm sorry. Jeez, what's wrong with me? That's from the same Nautica show. The
That's
Darkness,
nice.
great shot there.
Yeah.
I watched other videos of performances to know that at the beginning of the second song, he always jumps off the drum riser, so I was able to catch that shot. That's Roger
wonderful.
Taylor from Queen's son on the drums.
Okay.
He's played with the Darkness for a long time. Def Leppard, that's from the Q, 2011.
That's
Doors, oh my
Doors.
God.
That was one of my earliest shots.
Wow, what year was that? 68, 69?
69. No,
Oh.
68. I had never picked up a camera to shoot a show. It was late 69 at the Auditorium Theater in Chicago.
Oh man, how big of a place was that?
I would say maybe about the size of Music Hall, maybe 3,000. Back in the day, even really big bands were not playing arenas yet. In fact, there weren't arenas. Cleveland's Richfield didn't open until 74.
Right.
So big bands back in the day played Public Hall, which is 10,000 seats. That's where I saw Led Zeppelin, The Who, all these big bands. And bands just a tier under that played Music Hall.
That's a great shot of Jim Morrison. From the Doors to Dream Theater, that was the first tour with their replacement drummer. That was 2012, and that was at Nautica. Really
Nice
great drum
kit.
set, man.
Yeah.
His drummer, he's got a lot of work to do every night.
Yeah.
The original drummer of Dream Theater, Mike Portnoy, that was from a show in 2011, and I think that might have been Nautica or Blossom with Yes, I think. I don't remember where that show was. There's another shot of Mike Portnoy, one of my favorite drummers. I really love him. I like Mike Mangini too, the current drummer, but Portnoy was the best. I'm a huge Dream Theater fan. Lead singer for the band, James LeBride, that's also from that's from a 2010 show, actually. And then we move on to the Eagles. How many times did you shoot them?
I think once. I hope once, because I didn't really care for them a whole lot. But you can see Joe Walsh there flaunting his hometown pride. And this was from the Richfield Coliseum, and they were not a very lively live band. And I remember the show because Jimmy Buffett was opening up.
Ugh.
And and all both bands did was talk about the ways they like to get stoned. I mean, Jimmy Buffett introduced every song by saying, "Oh, this is what we like to smoke in the Florida Keys, and this is what we like to drink in the Florida Keys." And of course, the Eagles kept making cocaine references, so it was a very druggy show.
I liked Eagles after Walsh joined. Before Walsh, I was just never. They were just too bland.
Well, they were country rock.
They were
I mean, it was straight ahead country.
I don't
rock.
mind country rock. I just thought that they were so bland. I just
Well,
never. I never
all
got
those
it.
bands were bland because what country rock meant in those days was watering down rock and roll. When you had bands like Poco.
Well, I was going to
and
say,
those
I
bands.
never understood what made the Eagles so much more popular than Bread or Poco or any of
Songs, I
those
think.
bands.
I think it was Songs.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
Eagles fans are going to hate me.
Yeah.
Nice shot of Eagles with Seeger there. That's
With Bob
cool.
Seger, yeah.
Was he opening for them or?
I think, yes, probably. Yeah, because he was not big outside Detroit at the time.
The Money Man,
Eddie Money, who was very popular in Cleveland, another one of those artists who really got a big boost from WMMS, and I probably saw him a dozen times.
One of those Agora shows, the first tour was broadcast on Channel 8 and simulcast on MMS.
Yeah, that was the year they were doing the live from the
Yes.
Agora on Channel 8. They did about 12 shows.
Those were great.
and
I'd love to see
There's
archives of
great
those.
stories behind that, but we're not going to get into those now because they're not relevant.
Nice Eddie Money with the Indians hat?
Yeah.
Where was that backstage at, do you know?
I think that was actually at MMS.
Oh, okay, very cool.
And that was at the Agora.
Those maracas or whatever you call those?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Keith Emerson at Public Hall.
nice shot from
Very
ELP
early,
there.
probably 70 or so.
Wow, 70.
Yeah.
Moving on to Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks there. Great shot with their leg up in the air.
Yeah.
Lindsay with the silhouetted backup singers. That's from 2015. Stevie Nicks' shot was 2012.
That was from Richfield, probably early 80s.
Okay. Do you shoot like Rumors, any of those classic tours?
I think so, yeah.
There's another shot from 2015. I think I shot that tour twice, Columbus and Cleveland. I don't remember which one that was. Another 2015 shot. 2013. I was fortunate to shoot Fleetwood Mac a couple of times. There's another
That's
Stevie Nicks
nice.
shot. And well, that's a really nice shot.
Yeah,
That looks
also-
like it might be late 70s.
Fleetwood Mac, yeah. That's another one of, yeah.
And we go from Fleetwood to the Foo Fighters. That's the first time I shot them, 2011 at the Q. Again, a very dynamic band on stage. Very, very fun to photograph. And that's from a Blossom show a couple years ago, 2018. Also from 2018. I love when I can capture a performer and then also their face on the screen. A lot of times that makes for a really good photo. Another shot from Dave Grohl that goes back to 2011. Taylor Hawkins, their drummer, that's also 2011. Another 2011 shot, and then we go back to
Gary U.S. Bonds.
Wow, how many people under 30, if you ask who he is, would know him?
Under 50.
Under 50, maybe under 60?
He'd had but one big hit was in the late 50s, around 1960, and then really didn't do much of anything except oldies tours.
But he had kind of an MTV resurgence, didn't he?
And then, well, his Springsteen resurgence. He was kind of adopted by the E Street Band, who, brought him out and did some recording and performing with him. So they kind of revived his career for him.
Good for Gary.
Yeah.
Nice shot with his tongue out, his arm up in the air, nice little section of shots.
I just really like those shots.
That's a nice
Whether
one with the
people
lights
know
there.
who he is or not, George Thorogood at Blossom.
Wow, that's a nice
He
shot
always
there, too.
rocked the place to the point where I think there was a murder at one of his shows.
Wow.
There. Yeah. So a corpse was found in the woods.
Too much bourbon, scotch, and beer.
Yeah, probably. And that's G. Smith, who played with Hall & Oates and many other bands. I think he played in one of the late-night talk show bands. Just a guitar for hire who played with a lot of great people.
Now, what band was this taken from?
Hall & Oates.
Oh, okay, Hall & Oates.
Hall & Oates.
And we got to Axl Rose. That was probably during the lowest point of Guns N' Roses' career. They played at the Covelli Center, and he was the only original guy.
Well, isn't their whole career, other than like 1989, a low point?
That was 2011, and we were, again, as far back, they put us as far back on the floor as you could get without going up the stairs into the seats. So we were way, way far back, and it was a pretty horrible show. There's just two mediocre shots were the best thing that I got from that show. Grateful Dead, very cool
Dead
shot.
At Blossom, yeah.
Wonder what that year was. That's pretty early.
84.
Oh, it's 84?
I
Okay.
think.
I would have guessed earlier.
Yeah.
Nice. Good shot of Jerry.
Yeah, that was also taken at Blossom.
Bob Weir, nice
There's
shot
old
there.
Blossom.
Another black and white of
Yeah.
Jerry.
That was taken at Music Hall in late 1970.
Wow.
That was the first time I saw them.
Very
and that
nice.
was a very young Jerry.
I saw the last
And
two
that was
Jerry shows in Cleveland. That's a great shot.
Very
Phil.
young Phil Lesh.
Wow. 1970 or so?
Yeah, November 1970. There's Pigpen. That's also November 1970.
These are really iconic Dead shots that you got. Very, very nice. Another great shot of Pigpen. And then we go from Grateful Dead to Green Day. There's a nice train wreck of a segue. Huh?
Yeah.
That's from Blossom, I believe, 2017. I've been a fan of that band. I like their catchy songs. They have great hooks. And they're really an energetic, dynamic live band. I like them.
It's Guns N' Roses Slash. And I think that was Music Hall.
Nice shot of Axl Rose there. Was that
during that brief moment when they
was that one of the first U.S. tours? Would that be Appetite for Destruction?
Yeah,
very nice.
This was all after that. I think was
that's
Coliseum.
Probably Use Your Illusion. I bet you.
No, these were all Appetite for Destruction.
Oh, were they really?
Yeah.
Nice. We moved from Guns N' Roses to Heart. That was from Blossom around 2010 or 2011. Nice shot of Nancy right there, and some good shots of Ann. Always been a big fan of that band, especially their really early stuff. The first couple albums I love.
And you can tell that's the 80s. Look at the hair.
Man, you can definitely see the hole. You can almost see the hole in the ozone layer above their heads.
Yeah, and that was also probably a little earlier in the 80s.
Yeah, that's a great shot of Ann. A couple
before
great shots.
Before they really started using the hairspray.
Yeah, really, really nice.
Yeah, those were probably early.
I always thought she was an underrated guitarist, too. I was always a big Nancy fan.
Yeah, that's Mick Ronson and Ian Hunter were huge in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that had to do with Ian Hunter recording Cleveland Rocks, but they worked together on a lot of projects and just, really brought out the best in each other. And Ian Hunter was also promoted by Cleveland International Records. They released a lot of his work, and Steve Popovich there was a huge fan.
That's a really great shot.
So I probably saw them 24 times. Yeah.
Nice solo shot there with the halo hair with the light behind him.
Yeah,
very,
and that
very
was
nice.
at Richfield Coliseum too.
That's a great shot too with the Sea of Hands.
Yeah, I
very
love
nice.
That.
These shots are great. I don't know if I've seen a lot of these Ian Hunter ones of yours before. Very nice. We move on to Jeff Beck. That was at the Akron E.J. Thomas Hall in Akron.
My favorite guitar player.
Back in 2013, E.J. Thomas, a really great show. I saw him there in the 90s, and then I photographed him in 2013, both in the same place.
The Killer, Jerry Lee Lewis. That was at one of the American Music Masters series, and I don't remember which one. It may have been the one dedicated to him, which I actually went to because I wanted to see Jimmy Swaggart, who's his cousin.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Jimmy Swaggart, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Mickey Gilley, the country artist, are all cousins and grew up together.
That's a dysfunctional thing Thanksgiving.
And,
Jesus.
Yeah, and knowing everything you know about Jerry Lee Lewis, you think, okay, he's got this cousin Jimmy Swaggart who became this evangelical guy. But he didn't fall too far from the same tree, because if you remember that Jimmy Swaggart got in a lot of trouble for getting caught with prostitutes in inconvenient places. So he and Jerry Lee Lewis had a lot in common.
When you see a prostitute, it's got to be a convenient place. Why don't people
Well,
understand
they were
that?
he was stopped by the police because his car was weaving. And when they stopped him, it turned out he was in the car. He had a prostitute in the passenger seat, and a girly magazine open between them. He's probably masturbating.
That's a little too much information, Anastasia. Did you shoot that shot?
But I remember seeing a TV interview. I was not there. I think it was in Louisiana. I remember seeing a TV interview with the prostitute, and the interview says, "Well, why were you in the car with him?" And she said, "Oh, he was paying me. I'm a prostitute. That's what I do." I mean, she was just like really straight.
That's the best answer ever. What a stupid question, you dumbass. Why was I in the car with him? Because of his good looks. Alrighty then, that was a nice little aside.
Jethro Tull. I think that was. I was going to say later, but for me, I guess for most people it would be earlier, probably late 70s.
I'm a huge
at
Jethro
the
Tull
Coliseum,
fan.
because I shot them starting in like 1971.
Probably one of the first 10 rock bands I ever listened to, and I've been a
So
huge
I
fan
really
ever
liked them
since.
in the early 70s. I'm not really a big fan anymore.
Peter Wolf, Jay Giles?
Jay Giles, I have a lot of pictures here just because they were a very visual band, and I got great pictures of them. I mean, they weren't a band that at first I particularly liked, but man, they gave a dynamic show. That's from the World Series of Rock.
They really do give a dynamic show, and it's
Yeah.
funny. I shot Jay Giles with Bob Seger, but it was after they threw Jay Giles out of the band.
Yeah, okay.
They toured as Jay Giles band, and Jay Giles wasn't in the band.
Yeah, okay.
That didn't make much sense. Anyway, from Jay Giles to Joan Jett, that was the opening night of the Roxino out there at MGM now. It's called MGM now. That was back in 2013. Not a good night for a lot of reasons, but we'll
Yeah.
tell
There's
that story
Joan Jett
later.
at Tower City Amphitheater.
That's a nice
That
shot.
was a good show.
Yeah, how long ago was that?
Oh, probably 2005
Did you ever do any Runaways photos?
Yeah.
Did you
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Wow, very
Yeah.
cool. That's a nice Joan Jett shot there too. Joe Satriani, I think that was at the Lakewood Auditorium 2013.
Yeah, one of the great guitar gods who never really had a band. I mean, he was one of those people who didn't get known like Eddie Van Halen for being part of a band. He just basically built his reputation on his own guitar playing. Steve Vai did the same thing.
He played with Steve Morse, and that was a great double bill. I'm a big Steve
Yeah.
Morse fan. Going
Morse,
all the way
Steve
back
Morse
to the
was
Dixie
another
Dregs.
one. He was kind of a guitarist for hire, but people kind of know Steve Morse more than they know the band he was in.
He's been in Deep Purple now longer than Richie Blackmore was.
Yeah, but I don't think people associate him with that.
His Deep Purple albums are great. John Mayer right there, that's from Blossom.
Yeah.
Oh, really, one of my favorite Blossom photos.
That's a nice shot, although he's kind of known as a jerk.
He's now with the Dead and
Yeah,
Company.
I know. He's
And
played with a lot of
I've
people.
enjoyed those shows. That's from 2013. And I remember him talking about that guitar. That's like an old vintage, like 1957 guitar or something like that. Neil Schon from Journey. That's from 2014. That's from Blossom. A couple shots there from Blossom. Then we go
Steve
back
Perry.
to 70s, right?
Yeah, that was probably 85, maybe. I'm 84. That was a big era for music in Cleveland. I mean, the 83, 84, 85 era, there would be like, I don't know, it might be 50 shows per summer. I don't think they ever got close to that until this past summer. They were supposed to probably have as many shows, and of course they all got canceled.
Yeah.
But I would be out to Blossom sometimes 4 and 5 times a week
Very
in
nice.
84, 85. And Journey were one of the many bands that headlined there. I chose Steve Perry rather than Jonathan Cain because Jonathan Cain became a big born-again Christian and a proselytizer, and he is now married to Paula White, who is Donald Trump's religious advisor and who invokes Satan as possessing everyone that doesn't support him. And she's a whack job, and so I assume he's a whack job too.
So
because
basically, when it comes to Jonathan Cain, you stopped believing.
Yeah, I really did. Jonathan Cain is now in that little band box along with Ted Nugent for me.
We move on from Journey to
Kid
Kid
Rock.
Rock. That's one of the many times I've shot him. That was Blossom 2013. Right, I mean, really
Speaking
close.
of Trump supporters.
That's a fisheye shot, so I was really, really
That's a
close
nice photo,
to get the
though.
full stage though, like that. That's another photo of mine that's been stolen a lot by infringers.
That's
There's a
cool.
Kid Rock show from 2015 when he opened for the Rolling Stones down at Ohio Stadium in
What's
Columbus.
that on his head?
A hat? I don't know.
That's a hat?
I don't know. I have no-
It's hard to figure out all this stuff
yeah.
flying around.
It looks like it's a hat.
That's an unusual hat.
I don't know. He's an unusual person. He's
Yeah.
got like slippers on. What do you expect?
I
don't
know.
That was the first time I shot Kid Rock, 2011 at Blossom,
Yeah.
and we moved to
The
the
Kinks, one of the classic British bands of the 60s, actually, although these were taken in the early 70s at Music Hall, and very eclectic music with much wider influences than most of the British bands of the 60s.
Very, very nice shots. Here is Kenny Wayne Shepherd. That's from State Theater, Playhouse Square. He was playing with Joe Walsh, and really, really great shot that I got with his opening set.
Little Steven, from the E Street Band, but this was when he was on his own.
He had a minor hit, didn't he? I think he had a minor radio hit off of that album.
I don't know. I mean, he got a lot of play here in Cleveland because, Cleveland was kind of like the hub of, Bruce Springsteen, East Street kind of music. So he was very popular here. But I don't know if he had hits elsewhere. But his band was terrific. I mean, he was a great performer.
We move into Meatloaf. That was probably 2013, maybe the only time that I shot him. And we get into some of the classic
That
stuff.
was probably 79 or so, 78, 79 at Blossom.
Will this be Bad Out of Hell?
Yes.
Oh my God! How
Most
iconic is that? That's Carla
That's
DeVito,
Bad
right?
Out of Hell, yeah. Carla DeVito, yeah.
Very nice. Those are great shots.
Yeah.
From Meatloaf to one of your favorite bands, Nickelback. Chad Kroeger, they're doing
I'm
Film
saying
of the Crowd.
nothing.
He's a very nice guy, and they are a really
I'm
nice
sure he's-
band.
I'm sure
I've had
he's
some really great
wonderful.
experiences with them. Really, really great. Nick
okay.
Mason, drummer from Pink Floyd. That's from 2019, last spring, and that was a show he did. I think it was Nick Mason's Saucer Full of Secrets, where he played early Pink Floyd stuff at Akron Civic Theater.
Yeah, good.
All the Syd Barrett stuff, and it was a really, really great show.
Okay, I just have to interject. I disapprove.
Of Ted Nugent?
Yeah, I disapprove.
You love Ted Nugent.
No, I don't.
I've sold you this photo, and you framed it, hung it in your house.
No, I did not.
I'm not supposed to tell anybody that, but I'm
banned Ted
revealing it right
Nugent
now
from
for the
my
first
life.
time.
All his recordings, no. This is a man who threatens to kill people, so no.
I like other artists that have killed people. I've been a fan of his since I was young. Not a huge fan, but I've owned 4 or 5 of his albums, and
He used to be funny,
I don't
like
mind
back
him.
in the 70s.
I
and
hated
then
the
he
Damn
got-
Yankee stuff, but I like his solo
Meh.
stuff. And I did meet him with Damn Yankees, and he was a nice enough guy. He's just spit out the politics. Wow.
Okay, that New York Dolls, that was taken at the Allen Theater, kind of late in their career, actually, when they started touring, left the Mercer Center in New York and got out on the road, and that was taken when they came here.
Some shots of when I worked with Pete Way from UFO. He lived in Columbus in the early 2000s. Did a lot of photography for him, recorded a show that ended up being released as a solo live album of his. And he also did shows with Paul Chapman, which was the first time him and Paul had played together since the 1980s when Paul replaced Michael Schenker in UFO. So I went to a lot of shows of Pete's, a lot of small hall places, and he is just the definition of a rock star. Super nice guy, and just a boatload of crazy stories. That's recording some vocals at Breaker 609 Studios in Bedford. That's one of the shows with Paul Chapman. I think that was that club Shakers in Cambridge, just a really small club. Again, just really a legendary time that they had played together for the first time since 1980, and that was like 2002. All these photos are 02 and 03, and Paul Chapman and Pete Way have both died in the last year. Pete Way fell down the steps at his house and died. Peter Frampton, that's from Blossom 2019. Another show last year, late in the year, in the fall. Fish, also from Blossom 2019. There's one of your shots. Police.
Police, yeah.
How long ago was that?
I want to say that was probably 82, 83. It was a Blossom.
You shoot them a couple of times?
Yeah.
We move into the Pretenders.
Pretenders, that was, I think that was Blossom too.
these all from the same show, or
No.
That's different,
That
yeah.
that was, I think, the Richfield Coliseum.
nice pink and back to
Yeah.
black and white. That's a nice shot too.
Yeah.
That's a really nice, warm, nice shot.
Yeah.
Then we get to this group shot. That was backstage somewhere, or
No, that was actually at MMS.
Okay.
I recognized the wallpaper, and you see Kid
Yeah,
Leo
there's Kid Leo there. You're right. Yep, yep.
second from the right.
I didn't see him peeking out there. That's
and
funny.
that was probably the first time they came to Cleveland in 1980 when they had the first album out, and they played the Agora to a sold-out show.
They were another band that MTV really helped break. That really pushed
This
really
was
hard.
pre-MTV.
Here is Queen from 2017. Went to an Indians game. Sitting there watching the Indians game. Left, went across the street to the queue. Shot 3 songs. Went back, watched the rest of the game. I really expected to hate this show because I'm such a Freddie Mercury fan. But I was really pleasantly surprised by Adam Lambert. He did a great job. He did a really great job.
Good.
Kept the songs enough original, but added enough of his own. It was just a really great show. And I got photos of one of my all-time favorite guitarists, Brian May.
Yeah, he's one of mine, too.
Love Brian May. And I have to say, Adam really did do a good job. And these are some vintage Queen shots of yours.
Yeah, that was 84, 85, mid-80s at Richfield Coliseum. That was earlier. That was a public hall.
76. Wow, that'd be like
When
sheer
they-
heart attack or something.
When they were just still in that whole glammy kind
Yeah.
of stage. With
That's-
the
wow,
satin
that's-
bell-bottoms. That was also early era.
That is a great shot of Freddie there. Wow.
Yeah,
Nice,
and
nice.
that was later. That was mid-80s.
That looks
I
like
think.
Hot Space maybe or something. Nice Freddie shot with the acoustic. Very
Yeah,
nice.
that was also Richfield in the 80s.
That's a great shot too with the lights. Wow,
yeah.
really nice Queen stuff, man.
Yeah, that was when
Really
he
nice.
came on stage in the motorcycle.
Very nice. Sounds like Rob
That was
Halford or
earlier
something.
again, yeah.
Nice white jumpsuit there. Really good shots. Then we get to this guy, Kevin Cronin, REO Speedwagon, 2016. Did you ever shoot them back in the day?
Yeah.
Then we get to Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. They had played at the Q a couple years before, and I love the band and was really looking forward to shooting them, but there was accidents and traffic problems, and I didn't make it to the venue on time. It's the one and only time I ever missed a show that I was scheduled to shoot. I was really upset. They came back in 2017. I made sure I was there hours early and got this great shot of Flea. I mean,
Yeah.
how does he get his leg up
I
there
don't know.
like that?
Maybe
Oh
he
my
took
God.
ballet lessons.
I'd be in the hospital.
Yeah.
Great shot of Flea, though. This is from the Music Box Supper Club. Rick Emmett from Triumph. 2016 this was taken.
Yeah, that was a really good band.
His guitar player that he tours with, Dave Dunlop, licensed a photo from this show to use on his solo CD. And we got to hang out with them, Nicole and I, before the show the following year, which was really cool because I'm a huge Triumph fan. Love them. You probably got some great shots of them back in the day.
Yes.
Rob Zombie, that's from Rock on the Range, I believe, 2012. Very dark show. It was hard to get good shots of him there. Rod Stewart and Cyndi Lauper, that's from Blossom just a couple years ago, 2017. Another shot from that 2017 show. One of my all-time favorite photos from the last 4 or 5 years, Roger Waters from the Q, 2017. I love the black and white screen with him in color in the front. One of my favorite shots. I've sold a ton of those. That's another shot from that same show. And 2017, Roger Waters again. Got some good shots during that show. Nice black and white there. Almost looks like a vintage shot. Rory Gallagher. Oh, Anastasia. I'm so jealous. That's a great shot. Moving on to Rush.
Yes.
2012 and 2015, I think I shot them. This is the 2012 show. One of my all-time favorite bands. I just love Rush, and that's just one of my favorite photos ever of Neil Peart. Nice shot of Getty in front of the flames. Alex, Red Getty. Another Alex with just a little piece of hair sticking up there. That's from that 2012
cute.
show. Great shot of Neil Peart. I was really devastated by his loss.
Yeah.
Such a talented individual. Getty, that's one of my favorite Alex shots of him sneering like that. That's from 2015, I believe. That's from 2015 as well. And then we get to the shots that I'm really jealous of. That looks like 84, maybe?
Could be.
Grace Under Pressure tour, I think, if I can judge by the hairstyles. You can judge a Rush album by the hairstyles.
Yeah, definitely.
Carlos Santana, a band I've seen probably 12 times over the course of my life. Always been a big fan. That's from Nautica. That was 2014.
He's doing his Gene Simmons imitation.
I think that's Seether. That's from House of Blues, probably around 2014.
Slade, one of the kind of glam rock bands from the early 70s. It's probably 73, 74.
That'd be Agora.
Allen Theater.
Allen Theater. Wow, haven't heard that name yet. I don't think in all of our
Allen Theater,
photos. Another great shot of Slade. And we get to Slash. That's from Rock on the Range, I think around 2012. Really colorful photo with the backdrops and stuff. His solo band with Miles Kennedy is really good. Couple more Slash shots. There's Miles. There's from House of Blues. That's from a couple years later, I think 2012. Really cool to see him in the small setting of House of Blues and to be so close in the pit to be able to shoot him. There he is, just kind of looking right at me, smiling. Stephen Marley, that's also from House of Blues. That's back in the early 2010s. A lot of talented kids in that Marley family. Moving on to Steely Dan, 2013. I think that was Blossom. That's actually from a Dukes of September show, and that was at Nautica. Stephen Pearcy from Rat at the Kent Stage.
Oh my God.
2017. That was an interesting show. He was a really nice guy. I got to meet him
We've
before
got
the show.
photos of them in their peak in the metal gallery. So if you're interested
we do.
in them when they were in their prime, we've got photos there.
Well, if you want photos without their prime, we have these too.
Yeah.
Most of my people are out of their prime.
Nah.
A lot of them. Steve Vai, that was at House of Blues.
Yeah,
I was
that's
so
nice.
happy to see him there. That show was sold out, and man, he was phenomenal. And that was around 2013. A couple of really great shots there. Steve Vai.
Steve Vai in the 90s.
Is that, yeah, that's solo stuff. Do you have any shots of him with Frank
Stevie Ray
Zappa?
Vaughan? No.
No.
No, that was. Yeah, I remember them touring. They may have, but I didn't see them.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, that is an iconic shot. Wow, where was that
And
from?
that was Peabody's.
What? Really?
Yeah, that was
Wow.
at Peabody's.
Stevie Ray Vaughan at Peabody's. Wow.
I think that was at the Variety Theater.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm really bummed
was-
I missed those
I
shows.
think
Wow.
that was at the Variety.
Great
too.
shot with the three beams of light. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
There's Corey Taylor from Slipknot, but his time is with Stone Sour. That's at House of Blues.
Oh.
I don't think he was too happy with me shooting. He kept flipping me off.
Eh.
Scott Weiland at House of Blues, 2013. That was really an embarrassing, really show. I felt sorry for him. He was in really bad shape.
I saw him at the Odeon, and the same thing. He was actually, I don't know, 2 hours late for the show, and his band kept playing the intro, and he wasn't coming on. They said, well, we're going to take a break. And then the opening act, which was Daniel Lanois, said, well, we're going to play a few more songs, and we're just waiting for him to show up. And then when he finally showed up, they said that he had been caught in traffic. This was like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night in Cleveland. And when he came on stage, and it was an unseasonably warm day, everybody was wearing shorts and tank tops. He's like dressed in a jacket and a scarf and a wool hat. Could barely get his voice out for the first few songs. Didn't even beyond a croak until about the fourth song. A couple of days later, he was arrested in Philadelphia in some housing project trying to score some heroin.
I remember that.
So I think that's probably what he was doing in Cleveland, too.
Probably. We move on to Tesla. This is from House of Blues 2014. And I was hired by Audio-Technica, the microphone company. We're actually using an Audio-Technica microphone right now. But I went during sound check.
Where's the
and
microphone? I only see a guitar.
Well, this is the show. I took promo photos during sound check
Okay.
of like the drums and the mics they were using on the drums and the lead singer with mics and stuff. And did a whole photo shoot where I was actually on the stage and they were posing for me while they were doing sound check. I'd never done anything like that before, and it was really a lot of fun. They were super nice guys. See the Audio-Technica logo on the mic right there?
Yeah.
And they were an endorser of Tesla. And it was really a fun show. I always liked the band, and they were just really, really nice guys. They're somebody that I would,
Phil why not?
if I had a time machine, I'd go back in time
Lizzy,
and
yeah.
go to Thin
That
Lizzy
was at the
concerts.
Agora, yeah.
Very cool. Were you ever like late 70s?
Yeah.
Great
I'd
Thin
have to
Lizzy
look up the
shots.
exact date.
There's a Thin Lizzy shot without Phil. That's from 2011 when they played with Judas Priest at the Q. Todd Rundgren with his Cleveland shirt. I love that photo.
That's good.
That's from Ringo's All-Star Band. And that's from a show at Nautica 2014. Man, what a band with Todd Rundgren and Steve Lukather and stuff. Just a crazy, crazy good band. That was a really fun show. Here we go. That's probably Agora.
No, that was Music Hall.
Okay.
That was in 1973.
Wow.
And that's when he was doing his big glam rock thing. He was part of that scene too. And he was very big in Cleveland also. At one point, his record label estimated that he sold a quarter of all the albums he sold in Northeast Ohio.
Wow. Yeah, legendary shows, back to the bars and the Agora shows and everything.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
There he is at the Agora, obviously.
Yeah, very nice. That's a great shot. Wow,
Yeah,
really nice.
also Agora show.
Very, very cool. Legendary stick bassist Tony Levin. That was taken at Nautica. Traffic. Wow, look at that shot.
That was, probably the Allen Theater, I'm guessing, maybe 70, 71.
And we go about a year later, I think the photo title says, 1972, T-Rex.
Yeah, T-Rex, Mark Bolan, who is just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame recently.
Where was that from?
I think it was the Allen Theater.
Okay, very nice. And another great shot there from T-Rex from 1972. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, that was the first time I shot them at the Q, 2012. Another shot there from 2012. 2012. Nice silhouette shot at the very end of the show. I love silhouettes so much.
That's
And
the Tubes, another band that was really big in Cleveland.
They were,
Got
yeah.
A lot of push at WMMS. In the 70s, the glitter rock, theatrical rock, all of that was really big here. You saw someone like the sensational Alex Harvey band that were like nothing anywhere else. And they were huge in Cleveland. Cleveland loved that kind of showmanship. And the Tubes, one thing they really had was showmanship.
Oh, yeah. In spades.
As you can see.
Yeah. Was really glad.
Yeah, there's Fee Waybill, one of their little numbers.
Yeah, that's a great shot of Fee Waybill. Very glad I was able to shoot Van Halen, even though it was their last Cleveland performance, 2015. I've seen them probably a dozen times in my life. I've always been a huge fan, and really hurt by his loss. Just such an innovator.
I think a lot of people were.
So original.
Oh, that's the Vaughn brothers.
Yeah, Vaughn brothers right after Van Halen. Don't you have any Van Halen fellows in here?
We had a bunch of Van Halen.
Or did you have them in metal?
They may have been in metal.
I think you had them in metal. Yeah, you did.
Okay, yeah, that was at Blossom, and I think the Fabulous Thunderbirds were opening up to Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, nice. And Joe Walsh, I think we have some of him in Cleveland connected too, but I put a couple in here for rock because Joe Walsh defines rock.
Yeah, remember to look for some of these in multiple categories.
Yeah.
If you have a favorite artist, you think, well, I'm not sure where they belong. Look in both the galleries because they could be in both.
Or you can send us a message and we can direct you right to them. That's a shot from that State Theater show. I did some photos backstage with him and the James Gang that we're visiting, and just a really great show. I shot Joe a bunch of times. Such a great live performer. Another band that's always been one of my favorites since I was very young, since I'm such a prog rock guy, is Yes, and that was from an ARW show at the Goodyear Theater in Akron 2016, where it was John Anderson and Rick Wakeman and just some various other members from different Yes incarnations. Very cool stuff there. Legendary keyboardist Rick Wakeman. I loved that album when I was a kid, Journey to the Center of the Earth. It remains one of my favorite prog albums. And a big fan of Rick Wakeman.
What was the one he had, like, the Six Wives?
Of Henry VIII?
Of Henry VIII.
That was after, I think that was the studio album
When I
after.
was on the air on WRUW, I put that on the air, and I think in the middle of the second track got so disgusted with it, I just pulled it right off the air.
The Journey to the Center of the Earth album is fantastic.
Yeah, well, that one wasn't. At least I didn't like it then.
Great shot of the two of them together. I'm a big Yes fan. Steve Howe from Yes. That's from a show at Kane Park back in 2013. A big fan of his guitar playing too. Very influential guitarist. ZZ Top. Where was that?
Backstage at Blossom Music Center. They had some kind of barbecue backstage.
Wow, very nice.
A meet and greet kind of thing, and they were. Probably doing an interview, I'm guessing probably with MMS.
Early 80s? It looks about early 80s.
I don't know if it's early 80s. It could have been 82, 83. I'm not sure.
And then my ZZ Top shot, I think, from 2012. That's from the Akron Civic Theater. And that is probably one of my top 5 most stolen photos.
That's quite a distinction. My most stolen photo.
That photo's been stolen a lot. I've went after quite a few people quite a few corporations for using that photo.
Okay.
And as you can see, we are at Z, so we can't really go any farther in the alphabet. That ends things off for tonight. Thanks so much for hanging out. Again, all the photos are for sale. Look to the description of this video, Sonic and Iconic Facebook page. You can go to joekleon.com. All those places you'll find links to where you can purchase photos. Photos are reproduced and shipped by our good friends at NEO Pro Imaging, the best printers in Cleveland. Any printing needs you need, you should definitely check them out. neoproimaging.com. And we have one more night, and we will close things out, and that is tomorrow. where we will do Cleveland Connected. Anybody with a connection to Cleveland, if they live here, if they live in Akron, if they are, came to Cleveland after establishing their career somewhere else, a lot of different artists we're going to give you. And then we're going to wrap things up with part 2 of Michael Stanley's oral history. Recorded last year at 78th Street during Anastasia and my reigning rock gallery. David Spiro once again hosts. We aired part 1 on Wednesday, and part 2 comes up tomorrow night, and it's just filled with great stories, all kinds of information from various points in Michael's career, and we'll have all kinds of Cleveland photos to kick things off. So join us tomorrow for Cleveland Connected, and thanks for hanging out for Sonic and Iconic, our very first virtual art gallery.
Thanks for joining us.